Hello, my Teaserking family. I did that on purpose. I get going, like yesterday was a 5-hour show. If someone wants to get a specific piece, how do they do it? And, I can't ask them to watch it all, but I don't really time the shows. Depends on guests and comments and questions. It's very important I differentiate the gold like I did and keep it to an hour. And then if they want to see gold, they can go right into it. And I know like Bobby likes that. And some of the guys I was talking to late were more into the economics and the gold. So I wanted them to see what's really going on. I tell them, but I don't think they really get it. Because when I tell them, well, gold's going to be 5,000, it's because of the fake demand. And that's really what I'm driving at is that's kind of the reason it's being held down, which I kind of say, but I think that was the best example that the demand is fake. Therefore, people don't want to buy it because they don't think it's going to go up. Not that JP Morgan coerces them, but by keeping the price down, they go, well, it's not going anywhere. That's all I hear. Why is it going to go up? No, it's not going to, it doesn't move. I don't want to buy it, which falls right into the plot of JP Morgan saying, well, you don't want to own it, own dollars. I can assure you, you don't own dollars. So that's not what you want to get into. So let's go through the NFL. Something a lot less fixed. And let's go through the lines as of today. So we got Detroit 1.5, 51.5, no movement. I kind of went up to 2. See, so they're trying to tell you that there's demand on Detroit because they look at against Jacksonville, which that's just not realistic, but okay. Buffalo 10, 43.5, up from 9.5. Again, I don't, the Jets are a very strong defense. They're a strong team. They shouldn't be 10 point. This line is almost the reverse. Oh, look at all the demand on Buffalo -10 because they're at home. And yet the Jets beat them the first time. Pittsburgh 1.5, 36.5, down from 2.5. And 36.5 is out because Lamar Jackson's out, which I argue that Henley's just not a problem. He's not going to hurt you. The 36.5 is a little bit too low to go under. It's an under game, but not like this. So I don't like the under there, but I like Baltimore. Philly 7, 44.5, up from 6.5. And then 45.5 down to 44.5. Cincinnati 5.5, 46.5. Again, because of T. Higgins, which should have no bearing on it, and 46.5. So that's just a bargain. Chase and Burrow are the key, not Higgins. Tennessee 3.5, 41.5. And keep in mind, Higgins still probably play. He's questionable with the hamstring. There's different levels of a hamstring, and a lot of guys play with the hamstring. So Dallas 17.5, 44.5, up from 16.5. You're trying to tell me people are just laying 17 with Dallas? Not a problem in today's NFL, really. KC 9.5 and 43.5 against the Denvers. Seattle 4, 44.5. Frisco 3.5, 37.5. Miami 3.5, 52.5. New England 1.5, 43.5. So those are your updated lines. And Navy 2.5, 32.5 over the Army. So we kind of discussed all this yesterday. We can kind of quickly review it. Again, I think Minnesota, if we get into who really needs the game, I call them like the playoff ones. So Minnesota, Detroit. Minnesota needs the game. Detroit, I mean, they got 5 wins. I'm not going to call them. It's a playoff game, and they need the game. Of course, these teams with the low win rates need the game, but they're not anywhere going to get. They're not there. So I don't buy it's a playoff game for Detroit. Minnesota's got 10 wins. It needs to keep pace with Philadelphia. So now you start looking at the number 1 seeds, and you go, well, there's Minnesota and Philly. Dallas is trying to catch Philly. So Philly needs to win to stay pace over Dallas, and then Minnie needs to win to try to catch the 1 seed. So as long as there's incentives for those top teams and they don't pull a Peyton Manning and whatever that idiot's coach's name. We're gonna sit the boys for 3 weeks because we've clinched the division. Even though it'll screw up our playoffs because our timing will be way off, but nobody will get hurt that way. I'm not coaching to win, or Tony Dungy. I'm not coaching to win. I'm coaching so Peyton Manning doesn't get hurt. He should probably go play golf instead of football. Then he wouldn't get hurt. But right now, we'll be careful with him. The Jets in Buffalo, very much. Buffalo start with Miami. The Jets are just like a game or 2 back. So they're still going for first place. They beat Buffalo already. They could easily beat them again. Buffalo maybe a little better at home, but Jets played well at Minnesota. Should have won the game, had the ball deep to take the lead and just didn't do it. Baltimore Pitt. Baltimore needs the game to stay with Cincinnati. Pitt's really out of it. Pitt's favored because Lamar Jackson's out. Too much credit for Lamar Jackson. They're a better team without him because then they actually have a quarterback who throws the ball to the receivers. I see this game. I like the dog in this game. Play against Pitt as a home favorite, 8-0. So Pitt's not a good favorite. No, they don't have a quarterback. I mean, Pickett, he's nice, but he's going to blow out Baltimore. Yeah. Now when Baltimore needs it, there's no way. Cincinnati, Cleveland. Again, Cincinnati needs it. Basically, they're trying to catch Baltimore just to win their division and to lock up the wild card. And then as far as the 1 seed, I think that's KC and Buffalo. Although they just beat KC, I don't think they're too far off. But right now, they're just, they need to win anyway to keep Baltimore. Jacksonville, Tennessee. Tennessee needs it. They're winning their division, but they want to lock it up. Jacksonville just terrible. Anybody that loses to the Lions by 35 points, how good can they be? Dallas, Houston, this line's way out of whack. At most 10. Houston's not that bad. They have pro players on their team, I believe. What did they lost last week, 27-14 to Cleveland, and 3 of them with turnovers. They fumbled in the end zone. They threw an interception for a touchdown and a punt return for it. Their defense played fine. They didn't give Deshaun Watson anything. And Deshaun Watson hadn't played in 2 years. I wasn't expecting him to get anything. So I don't, Houston scored 15. Cleveland's defense sucks. Dallas, you're not sure which team shows up. The team that lost to Green Bay, the team that beat Minnesota and Detroit, team that gave Chicago 50 points. Who knows? Maybe the Houston quarterback starts running the ball like Fields, and then Dallas will freak out. Philly and the Giants playoff game for both teams. Philly is the 1 seed trying to stay ahead of Dallas. The Giants are falling. They did tie Washington 20-20. This is kind of a hit and miss series where Philly won like 4 straight. The Giants won 2 straight, and Philly won the last 2 straight. Philly won't have it's not like Philly can't win in New York. Sometimes you get that. And again, the point spreads to the point you just win the game. KC Denver. KC absolutely owns Denver. I did a little research on it, and they had beaten them like 10 times in a row, and they blow them out like every time. So we had to add Kansas City to the list. Tampa Bay, the Niners. It's a playoff game. Again, you got Brock Purdy. I like Brock Purdy, but you don't just walk into the NFL. Well, Zappi did okay, and Herbert did okay, but usually you're more like Tagliavua. It hurts fumbling around because you're not playing New Mexico State. So I think it was a playoff game. You got Brady in 9.5. It's hard to not take Brady in 9.5. As bad as they play with their coach, it's also, I think, a good under. You have Frisco, a new quarterback, strong defense. They'll probably play to it. Seattle, Carolina. Seattle needs it to stay with Frisco. If Frisco loses to Tampa, Seattle has a golden opportunity with Purdy at quarterback. Miami, San Diego playoff game. Miami is right there with Buffalo for the 1 seed, and San Diego is trying to stay in the hunt, not necessarily to catch Kansas City, but for the wild card. And New England, Arizona. New England's pretty much out of it, but can still get the wild card. That's the thing with these 17 games. Teams with 5 wins are like, we can make the playoffs. Look at us. We've won 5, like the Lions. We won 5 games. We can still win the last 5 and get 10 wins. And nobody else with 8 or 9 wins is going to win. They're all going to lose the rest of their games, and we can make the playoff. Yeah, you can't even win 7 games. What are you talking about? So that's the thing with this new 17 game, to try to make it interesting as they give all these teams buys. There's 6 teams off with buys this week. What the fuck is that? Anyway, so that's what's going on. So yesterday's game was a joke. I'm not surprised the Rams scored, because I did kind of stay away from Oakland because of their defense. I am surprised Mayfield was a starter. And I am surprised that Oakland ran the ball 35 times and played Navy football and kept the score down with 8-minute drives. I looked at the drive chart. It was, I think they had a 17-play, 9-minute drive. This is fucking Navy. This is not the NFL. You do not do that. And it was a lot of like run, penalty, and then they ran again. So it was really like 10 plays, but with penalties, it turned into 17. I thought it was just a joke. This is why Oakland, this is why you can't play a bad team with a bad defense and ever think they're going to win. Even if they play Houston, you can't think Oakland can win a game. You can play them as a dog because they're competitive. Even over. How did this game? Well, I think if Warford is the quarterback for the Rams, this game goes over. But because you had Mayfield, who's been there 3 days, how the fuck does the coach say, well, you've been here 3 days. Does he know the system? Was this the one at Oklahoma? Was this the Cleveland Browns system? How do you know this system? And then how do you start the guy who doesn't know the system, who's got no time to get the timing down with the receivers? And this is the guy you're going to start over Warford, who looked pretty good against Seattle. Now, I know Warford was a little injured, but he was probable. So I don't know what I was watching there. Hey, Prophet, what do you think of the similarities between Monday Night Football and Tuesday Night Football this week? It's like the script writers are getting lazy here. The similarities, Oakland, LA, Miami, San Diego. I'm not following what similarities. Miami and Oakland are 2 different teams, and San Diego and LA are 2 different teams. I'm sorry, I'm not catching your question. But so with that said, the Rams have won like 3 games. They're not anywhere. Oakland, if they weren't out of it, they are already out of it. So really, you concentrate on the better teams because those are the ones that get you the wins. They're the better teams. So, I think I do something with where I look at the weak favorites, right? This team shouldn't be favored. They're not that strong. Why are they favored? Well, that's the first game, Detroit Mini. Why is Detroit favored? They beat Jacksonville. So how does that conclude beating Jacksonville to now I'm going to beat Minnesota? How does that – Minnesota's got a 10-win team. They're beating everybody. How is that the same as beating Jacksonville? I mean, Jacksonville doesn't have a defense. Minnesota's not a great defense, but better. But Minnesota's got a quarterback and Jefferson and Cook. They got a good offense. So I don't get Detroit being 1.5-point favorites in this game. Of course, I like the dog and I like the over because Detroit scores and doesn't play defense, and Minnesota, very similar, can score. Played the Jets 27-22, who's a very good defense. They put up 27 on them. So I think this game's definitely a 60-point game is what I think. Then I go Jets-Buffalo. I think that spread's too high. Everybody thinks Buffalo blows everybody out at home, and that's all they do. And I'm like, no. Especially teams like the Jets and Miami, they're not going to blow them out at home because they play each other twice a year. They're not scared of them. They've seen this Josh Allen show, and they're not scared. And you got the linebacker Miller out, and you got another linebacker questionable. Micah Hyde, safety's out. I mean, this isn't the same Buffalo team, and the Jets have been playing very good. I don't know who they start, Wilson or White really makes a difference. I think they're both decent quarterback. I don't think that's their issue. Profit, TB Monday Night Football comes back from a 13-point deficit in the final 2 minutes. Oh, yeah, that I surprised because I thought for sure New Orleans was a winner. I see the 16-3 game with 2 minutes. No, there's like 4 minutes left. I go, okay, New Orleans is going to win. And then the same thing here. And both were unders. The thing here is Oakland ran the ball like 35 times. I mean, and they're doing 10-minute drives. They're playing college football. And the problem is they got Derek Carr and Devontae Adams, and you should be throwing the ball to these guys. So I'm really just don't get what the hell they're doing. The coach, why is he playing Navy football? Hey, this guy keeps bothering me when I'm on my show. Oh my God. So that's really the thing is I lost my thought. Oh yeah, they're playing. Why are they playing Navy football? I mean, you've got Carr and Adams from a passing school, Fresno State. So I really don't understand what's going on as far as that. And next thing I know, so anyway, it is weird how they can give up 2 touchdowns in the last minute and a half. You can't score all game, but once you get to that last 2 minutes, all of a sudden Brady scores. I mean, the whole thing smells to high heaven. Are you kidding? Brady couldn't score the whole third quarter against New Orleans, but with 2 minutes left, he finds 2 touchdowns to win the game. So, that's why I kind of like him against the Niners, because no matter what, he will score late and make the game interesting. And I don't think Brock Purdy's going to blow out Tampa. They have a decent defense, and they got Brady. So Brady will find a way. He's faced tougher defenses than San Francisco, I guarantee you. Pittsburgh, Baltimore. So Keep that in mind. Profit. Too much public money on the Raiders last night. I don't know. Where'd the spread go? I thought it went, where did it go, from 6 to 6.5? I thought it went from 6.5 to 6. Why don't they hurry up offenses the whole game? Well, then they'd get over, and they don't want to get over. They wanted to go under for some reason. Although what was puzzling is the under did go. They did bet the under. It went from 44 to 42.5. So it makes no sense that the spread, that the game stayed low. You would have thought the spread was going to be a higher spread. So Pitt and Baltimore, there's too much. Again, a weak favorite, Pittsburgh. How can they be favored over anybody? They're playing a little bit better. TJ Watt's back, but you still got Pickett. He's not that strong of a quarterback, so I don't see him. 1.5. That you're putting too much emphasis on Lamar Jackson, which we know is not a very good quarterback. So by him being out, Huntley won the game last week. Jackson gets hurt, and then Huntley scores the touchdown to win the game 10-9. So I don't see. No, I was against a tough Denver defense. Pitt, yeah, TJ Watt, pretty good defense, but I just see this game. I think I like Baltimore. They need the game, and I like the game under. I mean, it's a low under 36, but Baltimore is going to play this game. They're going to play Navy football here. You watch Baltimore just run it down their throats, and what's Pittsburgh going to do? What's Pickett going to do? Light it up, run no huddles? I mean, come on. Well, the reason they don't just do no huddles is because they got to rest the defense, and you want to be out there for a while. You want to rest your defense, so you don't want to just no huddle it. The total ended on 33 last night, as well as Monday Night Football in both Tampa and the Rams. Is that Freemason 1333? Okay. Yeah, it's the end of the world. It's about to happen. Cincinnati, Cleveland. Burrow has been hitting on all cylinders they needed. Cleveland with Deshaun Watson sucked. This should be all Cincinnati. This is the free pick with the Minnesota over. Tennessee should kill Jacksonville. They need the game. They're in first place in their division, but they still need to lock it up. I think Indy's behind them, so they're at home off of a loss to Philly. They got humiliated. And in the NFL, when you get embarrassed down the road and you come home, your fans are booing you. You played pretty good, so Vrabel will have them playing well. Dallas, Houston, spread makes no sense. Way overvalued here. There's no way in hell Dallas covers this. And you can't look at you just got to use the logic that Vegas isn't going to let them cover 17.5. How do you lay this in an NFL game, 17.5? You got to be nuts. Philly and the Giants playoff game. Philly is going for the 1 seed, therefore they have something to play for. They're trying to stay ahead of Minnesota and Dallas. So Giants, they're all just Daniel Jones running the ball, a little bit of passing, but Philly should just dominate them. The Giants, I don't see doing too much here. KC, Denver, another KC owns Denver, and KC's off of a loss to Cincy. KC's going for the 1 seed with Buffalo. They must win the game for the 1 seed, so I think KC rips them. Who do I think runs the NFL? Well, if you watched my last video on gold, you got the answer. I went 6-2 last night betting against the public. What are you talking about? What other games? Basketball or? Well, I mean, the NFL is owned by the mafia. Everybody knows that. JP Morgan, same thing. Well, that's good. Don't be too blind by it, though. Like I said, I gave you that Michigan Kansas State scenario. You got to be careful. If there's injuries, you can't just do that. Now, if everything's fine and there's no injuries, you can do it. But if you got injuries in the game, like Michigan's quarterback was out, and these guys, and the line moved to Kansas State, and they bet Michigan because the line was going to Kansas State. They got their asses kicked because Kansas State killed them. But that's what I tried to warn them. Michigan's quarterback's out. You can't do what you just did, but you can do it in a regular game. So, like here, the line's moving on Buffalo. Yeah, you can take the Jets in 10. The line was like 9. Or you can take Baltimore. Baltimore was favored, and then it went Pitt because Jackson's out, which doesn't really hurt you. But Dallas went from 16 to 17. It actually went from 14 to 17 and a half. There you go. Take Houston. Let's see. Okay. Casey. So Casey off the loss, going for the 1 seed against the team they've won 10 in a row with. So look for Kansas City laying the 3.5. Again, the Niners, Tampa, we talked about. It's simply it's a playoff game. So what you got? Brock Purdy against Brady. I think Brady has a small edge there. Seattle, Carolina. Seattle needs it to stay with the Niners, and now they can smell the Niners might lose. Look for Coach Pete to have them against Carolina. Miami, San Diego playoff game. Tease the dog. Why is Miami favored in San Diego? Makes 0 sense. I like the dog in the game, but you can't make Miami favored in San Diego after just playing at San Francisco. So they've stayed on the West Coast. They're in no condition to stay there for 2 weeks and go blow out San Diego. You got to be kidding me. And New England needs the game against Arizona, but why are they favored? I don't like them favored at all. Now, I found a nice website. So the question came up yesterday by me, if we know who's sitting out these wonderful bowl games before we bet them, and we do that. Does San Diego have some key injuries? They always have key injuries. As far as I know, Keenan Allen's playing, and Herbert, the key guy, and Eckert. Bosa, of course, is out, but I think Khalil Mack's playing, and I'm not sure of the safety. But nothing really that's any different than San Diego every other day. So I found this website. It's from the Sporting News. I basically went on Google and Googled it. And it basically says who's sitting out, who thinks that they don't have to play because they might get hurt. So they call it preparing for the NFL draft. So this is the site. And then I'm looking for any players. So then it gives a list. These players are sitting out. Look at the top of the list. Florida quarterback Anthony Richardson. Why the hell is this guy sitting out? This guy played terribly. There's no reason. I don't even know why he'd be drafted, and he's sitting out for what? He needs the exposure. Florida's playing a pretty good game. They're playing Oregon State. This guy should be playing. I guess he's scared of Oregon State's defense. He should be playing to show the pros, look how good I am. No, he's skipping it because he knows that Oregon State's defense is tremendous. He's going to look like shit. So he sits out for that. The next one is quarterback Will Levis from Kentucky. Who the fuck's drafting this guy? I could see Hooker from Tennessee. I could even see Matt Bennett from Georgia because of the playoffs, but what? Nobody's drafting this guy. This guy is not, he's okay, but he's not where he should be. Now they're playing also a very strong team. Where's Kentucky? Kansas. Is Kentucky not in the playoff or in the bowls? I thought, well, they must be if he's sitting out. Kansas. They're playing Iowa. So he's obviously also scared of this tough defense that he's facing, which makes both of these bets really good unders without the quarterback. So finally, we can take advantage of these idiot quarterbacks sitting out because they're afraid to get hurt by these strong defenses. So how would you like to get Will Levis on your team in the pros, and then they play like, Baltimore or Pittsburgh? Is he going to play? Are you going to bet on this guy? Are you going to trust this guy that he's any good? Notre Dame tight end Michael Mayer. Are you shitting me? Why is he sitting out? Ohio State Smith Najiba hasn't played anyway, so I don't know what that's about. Oklahoma offensive tackles are sitting out. Who's Oklahoma got? You just lost both offensive tackles. Florida State. Good luck with that one now. Oklahoma, this one I had circled as an over. They're going to get killed without offensive tackles, although they still, this gives them enough time to get the backups going. Running back Gray, who cares at Oklahoma? A cornerback at Oregon, who gives a shit? Penn State cornerback, who cares? Pitt, the defensive tackle. Yeah, Pitt just keeps sitting guys out. And Utah running back Tavion Thomas, I would worry about, but their backup played even better when he's been injured, so I'm not worried about that. Then it goes on, and it says continue here, so then you click the scroll to continue. I think. Well, nothing's coming up. Anyway, and then I looked, talking to Nick about the portal. I don't see anybody good in the portal. The portal is more for the backups to try to – I couldn't make this team. I'll go to another team and try to make that team. That's what the portal is. So nobody – Cam Rising or Thompson Robinson, none of these guys are going to the portal. Especially that's going to affect the bowl game because – if they're a senior, they're not going anywhere. They're going to try to get drafted. So I don't see any of them doing that. But what a joke, these guys sitting at Mount. Oh, I don't want to get hurt. Then go play golf. I just hate when football players don't want to play football. Anyway, so here's the website. It's a Sporting News. And as far as I'm concerned, this is exactly what I want to see, But again, you still couldn't get blindsided where they wait till the last day or two. So I'll be late posting on purpose. Although I will post, now that I know Florida's quarterback's not playing, I really like the under in the Oregon State game. I can post that because if the Oregon State quarterback, who's already injured, Chase Nolan, if the other guy, why would he not play? But if that's the case, then it's a perfect under. See, in the unders, you want the quarterback sitting out. And then and the same thing with Kentucky. It's an under anyway if you play, but without him, you got to love that against where did it go? Against Iowa. That's a 10-point game anyway. Look at the over-under on this game, 33. What are they doing with these 32, 33 over-unders, like Army-Navy 32? Yeah, profit I already said. There's some and nothing terrible, but as long as Herbert's playing and Keenan Allen and Eckler, that's all you care about. Nick actually threw up after watching that Raiders collapse. Need Davis to sell the team. We need Al Davis to coach the team is what we need. That was just pathetic. Why did they play Navy football? Now, Nick, you're going to the Army-Navy game, and you're going to watch them. They probably won't do what Oakland did, which was I think they did a 17-play, 90-yard drive that ate up 9 minutes. And you wonder why they lose. And you wonder where the over goes when they do that. What are they doing? You've got Derek Carr and Devontae Adams, and you're going on a 17-play drive? You fucking kidding me? Yeah, you got to get over the Raiders. Just aren't the Raiders anymore. Unfortunately, until Stabler and LaMonica come back, and Biletnikoff come back, it's just a different team. But don't get too hung up on them. Prophet, are you covering the FCS playoffs? Not really. Just bet North Dakota State. But see, what's my first lesson? You've got to understand what you're betting, and you got to know it. Well, I don't cover it, so I can't just all of a sudden cover it. What I can tell you briefly would be go into your Yahoo stats where I pull the FBS and take a look through FCS and just try to get the flavor of the teams and do a superficial who's the offense, who's the defensive teams, probably North Dakota State and whoever, and just try to bet the defensive teams. You'll see the overs and the unders because you'll have the team that scores 30 and gives up 30, and then you'll have that A team. They score 30 and give up 10, and that's who you want to bet on. So that's a very quick lesson what to do there. But I don't pay attention to FCS. They don't normally have – they're not on the board anyway, so I don't worry about them. But if you can get lines on them, that's how you would play them. Todd, Kentucky playing Iowa. Who is playing a third string? Oh, Iowa's playing a third string freshman, and now Kentucky's playing their third string, probably a freshman. So 33 is a high over-under with these defenses. I don't think they'll get to 14. First team to 10 wins, probably. Nick, thoughts on Deion Sanders taking over head coach at Colorado? Well, there'll be a Z team for another few years, that's for sure. Is he going to bring his son into quarterback, and then he can go face Utah and USC and UCLA and have some fun there? And Oregon and Washington, yeah, how is he going to compete with all that mess? There's no way. He'll be lucky to win one game. Did he do anything at Jacksonville State? I mean, I didn't watch 30 seconds of it. So I'll be betting against him until he proves me that he actually knows what he's doing, which I doubt. Players like that don't normally know how to coach. And they go, look, I did it. You should do it. And, it's easy to do. And they don't comprehend how to teach. Todd, best tight end in college, Notre Dame tight end not playing, entered the draft. Yeah, I saw. Now, how does that affect the Notre Dame game? So we've got Notre Dame playing Notre Dame, South Carolina. Now, playing 4.5 over under 50 without the tight end. They're pretty much a defensive team. I got them as a B team so they can score, which now they're not a B team because you've just lost their one offensive weapon. So they go down to an E team with a strong defense. South Carolina. Oh, I love South Carolina now. South Carolina, so you get confused with Rattler. You go, he sucks. Then he lights up Tennessee. No, that was a fluke. Then he lights up Clemson. Okay, wait, that ain't a fluke. We saw what Clemson did to North Carolina, and May looked like shit. So I'm beginning to really like, because there's no way Rattler's not going to sit out. He's lucky he's still playing. So I really like South Carolina in 10.5. Without Meyer, I'm not saying South Carolina win with 10.5. It's a damn good bet, absolutely. Over under a 50. I had it as an over before. I mean, I think South Carolina still gets you 30. I don't know what Notre Dame's going to do without Meyer. He's like their only receiver, right? That nobody be open. He just ballooned it up to Meyer. Now, why is Meyer sitting out? He doesn't need the game against South Carolina to, yes, he's an excellent tight end. Of all the players, I could see him, not having to prove himself here, but You're just letting your whole team down. How do you draft this guy? I don't get it. I really don't. Look, you're on the team. You're quitting the team. What does that tell you about guys who want to draft you and pay you? Are you going to quit us? Are you really into this football? Maybe you should go play tennis or golf where you won't get hurt. That's always my thought, is you're not passionate about the game, and I don't think he is if he's sitting out. This is Notre fucking Dame. You don't sit out the bowl game. What they've created here is just incredibly terrible, bad sportsmanship, bad everything. You're letting your teammates down. I would be really pissed if my teammate, who was a really good player, sits out because he's afraid to get injured. Sorry, I don't buy that. Well, he doesn't need to play. He's going to get paid. Why should he risk injury? Well, why did he play against USC then? If you want that logic, why did you play against USC? Why did you play against North Carolina and Pitt? Why did you play against Clemson? Why did he play any of the games? He could have got hurt in those games. Why are those games more important than this game? But apparently, it doesn't matter how important the game is. He might get hurt. He better not play. That's my argument with it. I think it sucks. I think these players are just pussies. Anyway, so the pros are getting down to the end here as far as it's starting to line up. We now have a good feel for the team after only 10, 11 weeks. We've got Casey off of a loss. We've got Miami off of a loss. We got the Jets off of a loss. Baltimore. We got Cincinnati rolling. We got Tennessee off of a loss to Philly. The Giants off of a tie. What is that? Philly. I just think you just bet Philly and Dallas and, you can't bet Dallas this week, but Philly and Minnesota, you just keep pounding them. They have to win, and they're the better team. So you can bet on the A teams to keep winning. In this case, Minnesota getting points from Detroit is unbelievable. You die to get this type of dog, right? This is the type of dog. When I bitch and I go, I would have had a lock, but they made the wrong team favored. Is usually the other way around. Minnesota would be a 3-point favorite. And I go, if only Minnesota was the dog, it'd be a lock. And now we have them as the dog. It's unbelievable. It's like, and why? Because Detroit beat Jacksonville, they're going to beat Minnesota? Does it work that way? Not in my world, it doesn't work that way. And it's in a teaser world. See, again, this is the beauty of the teaser world. In the real world, everybody's like, well, it's 1.5, 2 points, Detroit, But in our world, we got 7.5, 8 points in Minnesota. You got to be kidding me there. The free play, though, is the over because I'm more optimistic. My expected outcome is more that the Lions will score the 30 points on them as the Jets almost. The Jets, I'm looking at the Jet game, 27-22, and I go, well, the Jets have a far superior defense than Detroit, so therefore Minnie's going to get more than 27. And Detroit's got a far superior offense than the Jets, which puts Detroit in the 30s. I got a 60-point game. My over-under is 51-45. That's damn near halftime, right? So I like that. I obviously like Minnie as the dog. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But I think your live dogs here, Minnesota, the Jets, Baltimore, Tampa Bay, and San Diego, and Arizona. And that's it. And I think you take Baltimore as the dog. You take Tampa Bay, like I said, and San Diego. Those are very live dogs. Absolutely, all day. That's exactly what You're praying to get Miami favored at San Diego, and you're praying to get Detroit over Minnesota as a favorite. That's exactly what we wait for. We don't normally get this kind of opportunity where we're getting the dogs we're getting against the favorites that are there. I mean, Detroit's favored over Mini. Really? Detroit's won, 5 games, and Mini's won 10. We don't look at Detroit's on a streak or that, or they almost beat Buffalo. I got news for you. Minnesota did beat Buffalo. There's the difference. Minnesota goes to Buffalo and wins. You think they're going to lose to Detroit? They need the game because they're trying to catch Philly. Therefore, I'm not worried about the effort. As far as my Jefferson playing and my Cook playing, that's all I care about. They're playing, I'm going to score, and I'm going to score a lot. That's what you're looking at. Just like San Diego is Eckert and whatchamacallit, and Keenan Allen and Herbert playing, fine, I'm in. That's what you look for. Baltimore, Lamar Jackson's out, fine. That's what I'm hoping. I'm happier he's out than playing. They're a much better team without him. Cincinnati's rolling. Look out for them. Tennessee needs the game. Philly's rolling. They need the 1 seed. I don't think they're going to have problems with the Giants. And then KC, as I discovered, has won 10 in a row over Denver, and they bury them. So I look for KC to bury Denver here. Again, I wish I'd have got them at 8.5, but 9.5 is fine. I'm not worried about them winning by 3 because they'll get rolling. And Mahomes is probable with a foot or a toe or whatever. He'll be fine. I hope it's not the same toe injury that he got in the playoffs the other couple years ago. Seattle, Carolina. This is interesting. Seattle should win, but they're so bad defensively you can't trust them. But their studs are playing. The receivers are playing. Smith's playing. And Michigan State Walker is questionable, but I'm sure Coach Pete will get him out there. And you're betting on Coach Pete. That's one thing that none of these other teams have is Coach Pete. We saw how bad Harbaugh is. Cincinnati, I don't know. Tennessee, I like Vrabel. Dallas, their coach sucks. Philly, I don't know who their coach is. Some guy. KC, I hate their coach. Ever since he fucked up Philadelphia 5 times in the playoffs, how does anybody trust this guy? He's only doing good because of Mahomes. It's got nothing to do with Andy Reid. The Niners are in trouble. They got Brock Purdy, who I love Brock Purdy at Iowa State, but they're not playing. This is not Nebraska. They're playing here. This is Tom Brady in Tampa. So good luck there, Brock Purdy. And then San Diego, Miami. It's a playoff game. We know San Diego. They are 15-1 as the dog. That's all I need to tell you. That's home dog and road dog the last 2 years. 15-1 dog, San Diego. And we got them at home. And Miami, they didn't really have a stat. I don't think they've been a road favorite that much, Miami. They're a very good home favorite, but they're not a very good road favorite. But they are good at home. But here you got them going to Frisco and then staying on the West Coast, I assume. How's that going to work? You think you're going to play better or worse staying out in San Diego for a week when you're from Miami? Anyway, in New England, I wouldn't touch with the 10-foot pole. Again, they're not starting Zappy. We see how that. What did they do last week, New England? No, New England. Yeah, they lost to Buffalo 24-10. I love that one. I had that one. I hit a Thursday night game. It's so rare. What is with the scoring? I don't get. Why are LA and Oakland playing an Army-Navy game? What is going on? If you saw the drives, Nick, they did a 94-yard, 17-play drive. That would have made Navy proud. But this is the pros. You don't do this in the pro. That's where the scoring went. They decided to play Navy. They had 35 rushing attempts. When do you see that in a pro game with Carr and Devontae Adams? You want to run the ball 35 times. I think he threw 20 times. I mean, and then they wonder why they lose. Unbelievable. Just pathetic coaching at its top. So I don't know if I see that. I don't think Minnesota's going to keep the ball away from Detroit. I think they're just going to pound them. Maybe the Jets do that a little bit where they might try to play Navy football because Buffalo's so explosive. I could possibly see that. Houston, maybe they just, quick kick a lot to try to keep the score down. I don't know. The Giants, yeah, I can see them trying to run Barkley 52 times to keep the score down. Denver, they can't do it. Carolina would probably be the team that would want. I don't know if they have a running back, though. You want to keep the ball away from Seattle's offense, but I don't know that Carolina has. Oh, yeah, they have Chuba Hubbard from Oak State, so I don't know if he's playing or what, but that would be it. And then San Diego, I could see running to keep the ball away from Tagliavua and Tyreek Hill. I can see Eckler getting a little bit more, but I can't see him going against Keenan Williams and not throwing with Herbert. So I just don't see any other team doing a 94-yard, 17-play, 9-minute drive. I don't see that. Anyway, and that second quarter, the Rams drive down, fumble, then Oakland drives right back to the 10-yard line. Well, what the fuck was that? He throws an interception at the 10. What are you looking at? You're at the 10. You can't throw an interception. Jesus Christ. What a joke that was. Anyway, so that's basically the pros. So they're just they're in the last leg of the race. So this is where they really get focused and they take care of business. This is where you'll see Philly and Minnesota and Dallas play well, and Cincinnati, Burrow's red hot. They beat KC. They'll kill Cleveland. And then you just keep going, Minnesota, and then Kansas City and Buffalo. Buffalo, not against the Jets. It's not going to be a blowout against the Jets. The Jets are just too strong, and they play them too often that it's not like the Jets are going to be in awe. Oh, my God, it's Buffalo. It's, well, fuck, we beat them 20-17 5 weeks ago. We can beat Buffalo. So there is no mental edge for Buffalo over the Jets. Maybe a little bit at home, but with all the injuries, I don't this game should be a 7, not a 10. Anyway, the best teaser trends, again, betting on would be Philadelphia, and betting against, would be New Orleans and Atlanta, but they're not playing. They're on fucking buys. And then San Diego, but we like San Diego as the dog. So I'm not going to use that trend. I'm going to use San Diego's 15-1 as a dog. Is a little more meaningful here. Again, you're getting into what's the personality type of the game, and it's San Diego as a dog takes precedence over betting against San Diego because now they're in their mold where this is where they excel. Even though you might be able to win with Miami, you're not losing with San Diego at 9.5 here. It's never going to happen. So again, that's week 14. Again, Army Navy, we like the dog in the game. Go Army. I don't see a reason that it went from Army -1.5 to Navy -2.5. The Navy quarterback's been out. He was really good. He was actually throwing. They had scored more, but if you look at who they scored it on, it was SMU and Houston. Then they played, against Air Force. Neither team scored, and that's what I'm expecting here is an Air Force type of 20-point game, unfortunately, which then makes the dog a real good play. Army can easily win, so you don't fuck around with it. Normally this would be an under, but at 32.5, again, these 33s, 32s. And we're getting 33 all over the place, Todd. I don't know what the hell it is. So let's quick superficially, since we're on a roll, go through bowls. UAB, 11.5 over Miami. Now, these are yesterday's lines. I'm not going to look through them now. Troy, UTSA, a good game. Cincinnati, Louisville, like the under. SMU, BYU, I like the over till I see 75, and then I've in trouble with it. Washington State, Fresno State, very good game. Hayner will be a live dog here, but he's going to have to be careful with his Washington State defense. Rice, Southern Miss, who cares? Florida, Oregon State's now a great under with the quarterback afraid to get injured. North Texas, Boise should be high scoring. Marshall, Connecticut, this is definitely an under. Liberty, Toledo, who knows? Western Kentucky, South Alabama. See, these are the games that get you fucked up in the beginning because they're the Sun Belt and MAC games. Western Kentucky, South Alabama actually is a very good A versus B game. Should be a dog game, I think, but South Alabama is really good. So maybe they get the nod. I don't see over 64 in this game. When you're facing a defense like South Alabama, I don't know you're going to get over 64. Baylor, Air Force. Now we get into our good teams. Baylor, got to like Baylor. Only laying 1. Air Force is a very good game, a very good team, but not against Baylor. Over-under is 45. Maybe we look at the over in the game. Lou Lafayette, Houston, probably an over game with Houston. Wake, Missouri, we got to be all over Hartman in this game. Middle Tennessee, San Diego State, that's an under. New Mexico State, now they changed quarterbacks. This kid's been lighting it up the last few weeks. Now, the last week was against Valparaiso, and they put up 60 points. But he is moving the team. They're laying 1.5. I kind of like New Mexico State because Bowling Green really isn't any good. They're a W team. I'm not even sure whether they're in here. I guess they won 5 games, but New Mexico State's very live in this game. Georgia Southern, our team against Buffalo. I'm surprised Georgia Southern's favored over 64. So this is definitely an over game. And I'm sure the game's not in Buffalo, so probably in Georgia. That's probably why they're favored, but this is a great over. Memphis, Utah State, Memphis 10, 65. Utah State's got some injuries to their quarterbacks, but we'll have to see if they play. No comment right now. Coastal Carolina, East Car. McCall played last game, even though they lied and said he was out. So we assume he's playing here. Then it makes it a very good over. East Carolina can light it up too. Wisconsin, Oak State. We know Oak State's got a couple of receivers banged up. And Spencer Sanders I don't know if he's playing. I guess he went for the transfer pool. So if he's out, makes this game an under because without Spencer Sanders, Oak State was terrible. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. But if he's transferring, but I don't know when. Is he going to transfer now before the bowl, or maybe you have to transfer now? I don't know. But I look at this as without Spencer Sanders, this is a great under because Wisconsin can't score anyway. What do we got here? Do you play teasers in college football? Of course. Haven't you been watching Prophet? I go through. I'm giving you teasers now. Todd, Washington State, not playing, I believe I saw. I haven't seen that. He's injured anyway, unless it's that new guy. They've had the guy out all year. I don't know that Cameron Ward's out, but I don't care. I'm betting the game under. Washington State, Yeah, they're an under team. I hope the quarterback's out. That won't affect me at all. I would prefer that. Then it's an under. See, so when we got unders playing Washington State, Iowa State, Oregon State, Illinois, and Iowa, we want the quarterback out. Then we want him out. We don't want him out with Utah and UCLA and USC. Then we got to keep an eye on USC's quarterback if he's playing with the hamstring. I think he probably wants to, so we will see. Prophet, what do you think of the following 3-team 10-point teaser? Army, the Jets, and Minnesota. Yeah, well, you heard me. You heard my. So when I go through every pro game, I'm giving you my opinion. I'm not giving you my bet, but I'm giving you my thought of what is the expected outcome after I analyze the game. So I think that the Army is a good dog. I think the Jets is a good play. And I think Minnesota is a good play. Now, there's a little bit of risk. Well, the Jets in 23 should be fine. If you want to fuck with Buffalo at home, I can think of a better team to put in there, a.k.a. Kansas City. I'd rather put in there with Minnesota and Army than the Jets because I don't want to fuck with Buffalo. Buffalo could blow them out. I doubt they will. KC's even. Cincinnati, you're getting 4 points. I would rather have those two in there than the Jets all day long. So you've got to analyze your best picks and who you want to bet on. And do you want to fuck with Buffalo? Now, the Jets I like, and I think they will do fine, but I'm fucking with Buffalo. Buffalo's the top seed. I'd rather fuck with Denver, who sucks, or Cleveland, who their quarterback couldn't get a first down last week against Joe Burrow. I want to take Joe Burrow. I want to take Mahomes after a loss. I don't want to fuck with the Jets necessarily. I don't want to fuck with Buffalo. Although don't get me wrong, I like the Jets, but I'd rather not. I'd rather go with the other two are just better bet. But again, there's risk reward. You don't get a better reward by taking the Jets over a Cincinnati or a Kansas City, right? You don't get more money by playing them. So the risk is the same. The risk is higher, but the reward's the same. So if I'm not getting any more reward, I want to play the less risk, and the less risk is Kansas City and Cincinnati. Okay, so where are we at? UCF and Duke. This is definitely an over game. Duke scores a lot. UCF, now we got to check their quarterback. The quarterback's out, and I love Duke in 9. Brumley sat out the last game against Tulane, and then when the game got a little closer, all of a sudden he was healthy. And I don't like that guy would be off my team. I don't care. That's ridiculous because it was not the coach's decision. It was his decision. He said, I don't want to play. Then all of a sudden the game's close. Oh, yeah, now let me play. I mean, what the fuck is that? So if he's not playing, I like Duke. If he is playing, I like the over. Kansas, Arkansas, definitely like the over. I don't see Jefferson out. And we know Kansas, they go over every week except for the Iowa State game. North Carolina and Oregon, right now, this is a great over. We got two explosive teams. T-Tech, Mississippi, over, two explosive teams. Syracuse, Minnesota, this is an under. Although the Syracuse quarterback's back, Minnesota, Tanner Morgan probably be back, but they got a really good defense. So does Syracuse when healthy. After a month, maybe everybody's back to healthy. Then it would be a very strong under. Oklahoma, Florida State. Oklahoma without their tackles. What the fuck? Do they only have 2 tackles? Were these tackles injured the whole year? I mean, the problem with these injury lists, the whole team's listed. So you don't know, are these guys starters? I don't know if they're any good. I wouldn't be drafting these guys. That goes to my whole basis premise of drafting a lineman in the first round. Fuck these Oklahoma guys. I can go draft Notre Dame guys or Michigan guys or Ohio State guys that are just as good as these Oklahoma guys. So why would I waste a first-round pick on some idiot who sits out because he's scared to get hurt? Why do I want him on my team? So that's my point. Go after anybody but Alabama. Go after these other teams, linemen who are got it. The guy in Ohio State, you're telling me, is not as good as the guy in Oklahoma? And what is the difference? I mean, they're freaking linemen. They sit there and they get in the way. They don't, you can't count out, you can't say this guy's better. And, does it really matter? How does that in the scheme of things matter? Dallas had the best offensive lineman a few years ago. They won like 2 games. Detroit's had the best offensive line, or a good offensive line. They sucked last year, and they won a few games this year. It's not, the offensive line is meaningless. Anybody can go in and play it, is my point. And just go after big school guys, and you're fine. That's not your problem. Your problem is your play caller, your offensive coordinator, your coach, your quarterback. That's your problem. Texas, Washington. As long as Robinson, the Texas running back, plays, I love the game over. They'll score a ton. Washington, we know they're a 45-point team. So again, if he plays and he doesn't sit out for the draft, then this is another over. Maryland, NC State. NC State is a very strong defensive team without their quarterback. Maryland has trouble against good defensive teams. So it's probably an under. Pitt, UCLA. It's not even a question. Thompson Robinson plays. We're taking UCLA, and it's only 3.5. How the fuck? My line's 10. Only laying 3.5 with UCLA. Are you shitting me? Over under a 60. Give me UCLA in 2.5 all fucking day. Notre Dame. Now we gotta see if they're still 4.5 with Marcus Meyer out. Over under a 50 now turns in to take South Carolina in 10.5 and or go over 44. South Carolina is going to get you there by themselves with this. All of a sudden, Rattler's got it. It ain't a fluke when he did it against Clemson. Tennessee's maybe a fluke, but not now. He's done it against a good team. Ohio, Wyoming. Who really cares? Ohio's an over team. Wyoming, pretty much an under team. Probably an under game because Ohio didn't do much against Toledo. Tennessee, Clemson. Who's the quarterback? Tennessee's struggling without Hooker. Clemson struggles with their quarterback. Jesus, I don't know. Probably an under game. Iowa, Kentucky, quarterback's out. I wonder if Kentucky's still a 3.5-point favorite then. This is over under a 33. This won't hit 23. This is an under. Alabama, K-State. This won't even be an upset. Take K-State 10.5. This Alabama, I would imagine their whole team sits out because it ain't a playoff game. When's the last time Alabama's been in this situation where they're playing a non-playoff game? Because they're always in the playoffs because it's their playoff. They created the playoffs, so they're always in it. Even if they have 5-6 losses, I can't believe they're not in it. K-State's such the better team here. There's a Georgia defense going at you. Look out. They've been playing red hot. Love them. TCU, Michigan, all over TCU in 16. That's a fucking joke. That line's so off. Michigan thinks they're just going to roll. It's TCU. Nobody's respecting TCU playing Baylor, Oak State when they were good, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas State, and Kansas. And, oh, yeah, by the way, West Virginia and Texas Tech, who aren't bad. They're not the Z teams, right? And nobody wants to give Texas Tech credit. With that offense, look out. And then Georgia, Ohio State, all over Georgia. Ohio State, what are they doing here? I don't quite get why Ohio State's in the playoff. Because somebody's got to explain how they deserve to be in it. They didn't win the Big Ten. They didn't win their division. The only team they beat that was any good was Penn State. That was it. Michigan State's not really that good. So I'm trying to understand what the fuck they're doing in the playoff. They didn't look good against Michigan, good enough at home to be in the playoff. Oh, they only lost one game. Oh, but they didn't play anybody. They played one decent team, Michigan, who played nobody themselves. So somebody had to win the game. What's my freaking line? Anyway, so this game's going to get ugly for Georgia. They're going to kill them. I mean, if Ohio State couldn't handle Michigan's pass rush, what are they going to do against Georgia? And Georgia looked awesome against LSU, and if they're running that many guys at Ohio State don't have a prayer. Sorry, not this time, Ohio State. Your quarterback sucks. Your running backs are hurt. Even if they play, it ain't going to matter. Georgia's just way too much. Mississippi State, Illinois. This is under all over with Illinois. Illinois is a live dog here. LSU, Purdue, like the game over. Purdue, explosive team. USC, Tulane. Tulane's 1.5 over USC. Now, I know Tulane's a good team. They're an 8 team, but not against USC. You give me the quarterback, and we got USC all day. Over 62. I like USC in 7.5 more than I like the over. And Penn State, Utah. Love Utah. Getting 7.5 from Penn State. They beat USC twice. They lost to UCLA by 3. They lost to Oregon by 3. They're 10 times better than Penn State. Penn State's not. Who did they beat? They got killed by Michigan, and they got killed by Ohio State. Oh, they beat Michigan State. This is like a fucking joke. These lines, I guess, are they assuming rising? And are they assuming the USC quarterbacks aren't playing? Maybe. I don't know, but that's what we got to wait for. But that's just a joke. So that's our roam around college. I gotta check something. I'm losing my mind here. No, I guess I must not have posted this game yet. Okay. I got confused. I there was a lock I thought I posted, and I couldn't think of what it was, but I didn't post it yet. So waiting to see who's sitting out. They have Iowa favored by 2. Yeah, okay, so it moved from 3 to 2. See, now that movement is not based on the market. The betting didn't move the line. The fact that this Levis guy's sitting out, which is a good sign because that makes the USC and the Penn State line as if the guys are playing, and then they'll adjust it if they don't play. So, again, they should deadline it. Say, look, you got till December 15th. These games are Utah's January 2nd, and so is USC. So give them a deadline of Christmas. Once Christmas hits and you haven't declared, you got to play. Then that would be okay. Then we could live. But, were we going to wait till January 2nd at noon? And then they found, oh, yeah, Rising's not playing. He did this shit against Oregon State already. I told you, Prophet. Yeah, I mean, that's what I told you. I get 20%, Prophet. I just think these bowls we're going to really clean up again like we did last year. We had 8-0 on our locks, and I'm expecting at least that if the things hold. I don't think we had the problems last year. Rising played in Ohio State. That was our huge lock in the Rose Bowl over. It was like over. I want to say this. The line was like 71. We went over 65. We hit the over at half. It was 38-31 at half or some crazy number like that. It's the first time I've ever hit a 60-point over lock at halftime. I mean, it was on, well, the second, the Houston SMU lock was also hit there. But absolutely. 1.25. Well, it should be posted. I talked to my IT guy to do that. Let's see. Uh, he said he was going to do it. He hasn't done it yet. It'll be 125. And you'll find it in the college section. It'll say polls. So let me text my guy and go, okay. So it'll be 125 for all the bowls. And get you everything. So you'll get sort of like if you buy the year from it, you get one password and you just go type that in and you get each week's games. And that's what'll happen. You'll get that password, and then each week you'll get the new games because I post them by the week. So you'll get, the first week's, and then it'll roll the second, and then it'll roll to there's probably like 3 weeks. Oh, okay. He's saying it should have published. So maybe I need to refresh. So I got an IT guy. He just changes these little things. It updates the history. Yeah, I don't see it. Let me get out and come in. It's not there. Hmm. Oh, he's aware of it. I'm sure he'll take care of it. First bowl game next week. First bowl game's the 16th. So that would be next Friday. Yeah. You got time. But that's our rundown. So what we do is we do the same thing we do in the whole year. I mean, our UCLAs, our Oregons, our Washingtons. Again, it depends who they play. And then the biggest thing's going to be last year was COVID. We got screwed on we lost Miami of Florida to COVID, and I think we lost. There's another good offensive team that we locked that we lost to COVID. It was a Wake Forest game, but to my credit, they went and played somebody else who sucked, and I took Wake Forest and laid the points, and they killed them. So I picked up on that pretty quickly. But yeah, I mean, last year's COVID. I'm not expecting COVID, but in this year, I am worried about the early entry into the draft. I'm not worried about maybe a Spencer Sanders doesn't play the last game, but we'll know that. I think we already know that. But where I'm looking at is I'm looking at the players sitting out for the draft because they don't want to get hurt. So once I see that, and that could be hairy. Hopefully they don't, like Michigan did that with Peppers like 20 minutes before game. He was warming up and then he says, I'm not going to play. Like 2 minutes before kickoff. Michigan loses every bowl game anyway, so it doesn't matter. So they lost last year. This will be interesting. If this game to me is dead even. You want to give me 10 points with TCU and I get 16? Are you kidding me? They beat Kansas State's better than Michigan, and they beat them 38-28. Texas is just as good with the running game. Texas is the same thing as Michigan. Strong running game. And TCU beat them 17-10. So where's this line coming from? Well, Michigan, we'll go back to this. There's the demand on Michigan's here, and the price is up here, but the price doesn't equal the demand. And that's where we get all this supply demand help from economics. And here, Michigan's way overspread because Michigan's more popular. But the real price is here going, no. You lay about 7. That's about all you could lay. And then we get Texas's game, and we go, well, Texas has a strong running game and a strong defense, and TCU beat them 17-10. So TCU can handle a running attack, which is what Michigan is. Even without their running back out, the backup was okay. Michigan's quarterback can't. He's a kind of a running quarterback. So now we go, well, let's go TCU, Kansas State. Kansas State with the strong defense, more of a running attack, more of an option type of quarterback. Well, how did TCU do there? They won 38-28 in the first game. The second game should have won. They got held at the goal line, or they win both games. So they don't have a problem with Kansas State, who's exactly like Michigan. Why is Michigan 10-point favorites? Because they beat Purdue. They beat Michigan State. That's it. That's the secret. I mean, okay, they beat Ohio State, but Ohio State's not good. That's the problem with the names and the branding. You think Ohio State's this great team. Okay, beat somebody. Well, they beat Penn State. Great. Who did they beat? The Big Ten's terrible this year, right? So, if Ohio State went to UCLA and beat them, fine. They didn't. They didn't beat any of them. They beat a weak Notre Dame team with the backup quarterback in the coach's first game by 10 points or 11 points. Outside of that, they beat a bunch of shit Big Ten teams, and they blew out Iowa. Oh, boy. And then they get blown out by Michigan at home. What do you think Georgia's going to do to them? Jesus Christ. Yeah. No, I can see Georgia TCU in the finals, and that'll be a hell of a game. I think TCU can stay with Georgia above anybody else but Kansas State. Kansas State would be Georgia's nemesis, a strong defensive team that can run the ball, because you got to be able to run the ball against Georgia because their pressure is so dominant. Look at Tennessee. The guy had no time, right? This is a great quarterback. Hooker had no time. He got sacked 15 times. It was as soon as he goes back. So the only chance you have against Georgia is to run the ball. Ohio State doesn't run the ball. Their guys are hurt, even if they're better. They're not a running team. It's the only way to beat Georgia is you got to run it down their throat. Ohio State doesn't have that. Michigan without Corum doesn't have that. TCU has it. They got a good quarterback who can run and a strong defense. Kansas State would be the one team with the good running quarterback and Deuce Vaughn. They could give Georgia trouble, but they didn't get in because we had to have Michigan in we had to have Ohio State in because they lost to Michigan by 20 points. So that's why Ohio State's in. So if you use logic in this, it's pretty easy, right? Georgia will kill Ohio State. TCU, Michigan's even, take the points, and then we get to the next game and we see what the spread is. I guess if TCU blows out Michigan and Georgia does their normal against Ohio State, you're probably Georgia by 10, and that'll be a tough one. Then we probably go over under. We always like under in Georgia games. They got us with the LSU game. Where that came from, I have no idea. But LSU switched quarterbacks. That's what happened. And the good passing quarterback showed you what LSU's made out of. It's good Brian Kelly went to them, 12 weeks ago. They'd have been undefeated. So anyway, that's what we're looking for. We're trying to stay away from these guys sitting out or late injuries. Same thing. Otherwise, we're all over Utah, USC, UCLA, Oregon. The list goes on. Where's my Iowa State? Who are they playing? I don't think I saw. Is Iowa State not in this thing? Seriously? I don't think they won too many games, but there's certainly a top. I'd rather see them against EMU San Jose State. I don't see how the fuck is Iowa State not in this thing? Okay, there it is. All right, I will show you where it is. Okay, so that's my IT guy. Now, so the first thing you do is you go into purchase picks up top right here. Then you go into, there's pro and college. So you go into college and then you slide. You slide to the center square. Oh, Jesus. You slide to the center square, and it says college picks, all bowl games, including college locks, 125. Pick that. You'll get the password, and then you'll have that password for all the bowls and all the playoffs all the way through. And that's all you need to do. Now, if you want, we can, let's say for $200, if you want the rest of the year. So you want to do that, and then you want the rest of the pros, which we got, 4 weeks, and then the playoffs. So we can go do $200. So I haven't had him do that, but there's a let's do this. So if you just want the bowls, 1.25. So go into the pro picks and it says $200. So if you pick that, I'll give you the rest of the season. Well, yeah, because my rest of the season's still at it's still at 750. So I don't want you to pay 750. So if you go in for the 200 or tell me that's what you want to do, then you can have all the bowls and all the NFL for $200. If you just want the bowls, it's right there for 1.25. So I'm trying to give you a little discount, Christmas and everything. So 200, you get the rest of the year for everything. 1.25 for the bowls, and then if you want to play the pros or you just want certain, and I'll probably have the same 1.25 for the NFL playoffs. So there's a bigger discount. If you get it now, you get the last few weeks plus the playoffs and the bowls for 200. Or if you just want the NFL playoffs, I'm usually like $100 for that. But you get 4 more weeks if you want that. So what's your theory on teams playing in lesser bowl games than they were expected, such as Kansas State and Bama? Well, I think Bama doesn't play, and K-State's out to prove they belong. I think K-State kicks their ass. Bama only cares about the playoff. So I would expect half their team not to play. K-State's like going, okay, now we can show our worth. Let's beat the hell out of Alabama. The fact it's a lesser bowl, I don't think means anything as much as who they're playing. So for K-State to play Bama, they're going to show up. Bama won't. For some of these other ones, well, like Baylor. Baylor's got where's Baylor? Baylor's got Air Force. Are Baylor going to be enthusiastic? I think Baylor will show up to play. I think they're that type of team. They're a good team, and I think it's the opponent. They're playing Air Force. That's a good game. Liberty to Toledo, I don't know how apt these teams are. Boise, North Texas, I don't know how crazy Boise is about it. Oregon State, Florida, because it's Florida, I think Oregon State wants to show how good they are. The fact that the quarterback's not playing shows you what Florida thinks of the game. And it's funny, well, if it was a playoff game, the Florida quarterback would be playing. I mean, it's so hypocritical. Well, it depends who. Kansas is playing Arkansas. I think that's a 100-point game. I think they play. Kansas is excited to be there, as is Arkansas. North Carolina, Oregon, I think that's a good. See, I think if it's a good game and you're in a good matchup, I don't think you have a problem with it. Notre Dame, South Carolina, I don't think Notre Dame shows up. I think South Carolina shows up because they want to show what they're doing, but I don't think Notre Dame, maybe they show up, but usually it's the team that got screwed. So who got screwed here? I don't think Alabama got screwed. K-State definitely got screwed. Utah definitely got screwed. We got Penn State, so they got a pretty good game. I think it gets down to we want to show you that how good we are. Does USC, Tulane, maybe USC doesn't show up, but I got a feeling their coach is going to have them showing up. I think it's too much. So it all depends, but I think most of these they're happy to play. It's good practice. If it's a good game, I think they want to. Florida probably feels like they have nothing to gain with an Oregon State as much as Oregon State has to gain. Keep in mind, Oregon State beat Oregon. So they're on a high. I look for Oregon State to blow out Florida now that Florida's guy quit. Now, interesting, that spread was Oregon State -7, as if they knew the quarterback wasn't playing. So I can't tell if these lines are anticipating the quarterback's not playing or they are what they are. But I don't know. Oregon State, I could see being a 7-point. So did that line move? Let's see if that line moved. Uh, uh, uh. So we got Oregon State. Yeah, 7.5, 54.5. So the line really didn't move. If he was like it moved a half a point because he's not playing. That's how valuable the guy is. Um, let's see any other. This is my Utah move. Nah, Utah's still getting 1.5. USC still getting 1.5. Georgia's 6.5, and Michigan's down to 9.5. We bet. See now those, nobody's sitting out, so we might have to bet TCU soon and Georgia. Although Georgia's down to 6. So what'll happen is Ohio State's guys will start mysteriously getting healthier, and they'll play, and then all of a sudden, the line starts moving like it really matters, right? Yeah, it's Georgia. It don't matter. Archie Griffin can come back. You ain't beating Georgia. You don't have the offense and the defense to beat them. You don't have the defense to beat them, that's for sure. TCU's all equipped to beat Michigan. So, I mean, that's what it is. My knowledge is there's a couple of teams that don't like Oklahoma. Now that the tackles aren't playing, does that mean they don't care? Florida State, I guarantee, is going to play, and they're the better team. So we will see. But yeah, with this new stuff, we got to be careful how early we can put out, like Utah. I really don't know if I can put it out before the first. I love Utah. It'd be a lock, but I got to wait till the first to see that Rison's playing. If he doesn't play, we're fucked. So hopefully we get a good feel. That's where you go to the Twitter, you go to his Twitter account, are you playing, and hope he's honest. Or I do a Google search, and I actually typed in is Spencer Sanders playing, and you get to a little thing, and it said, yeah, he is. So that's some strange site, but you get it on. If you Google it, if you Google that question, you actually get to wherever that answer is, and you don't care where it is. Just give me the answer. So that's what we have. So interesting bowls. It's a good conclusion. This week, Army Navy. Just take the dog because you can't give me the winner. You can't say Army's going to win, and you can't say Navy's going to win, and you can't look at the line. All you can do is say, give me the winner of Army Navy without a point spread, and you can't do it. So therefore, I'll take the dog. Thank you very much. Give me 8.5. Normally it's an under, but it's 32.5. They've been scoring more this year, so maybe they can get a little carried away. Can they beat 26.5? If they would have played better against Air Force, I would have taken it. Under 38.5 probably should be good, but I think I'd rather play the Army in 8.5. I don't know, just a choice. And in our pros, we went over enough yesterday and today, so I think we're all locked in, keeping an eye out on injuries. We will have to see. Outside of that, anything else? Where's Bobby today? I thought he'd be here. Anyway, so these economic ones, I'm going to start chopping like I did today, where I did gold for an hour, because if it gets caught in the mix, right, how are you going to find it? Especially yesterday was 5 hours. How are you going to find the certain key elements? I don't know how you can do it. So this way, if I chop it and say, well, let's just talk gold. Okay, next, done. Now let's talk football. Then I think it's better. Plus, the people that don't want to hear about gold, they'll come into the football one. And if they want to hear gold, then they can go to the gold one. But anyway, that's the theory. So there's an interesting gold video I'm in the middle of watching. This whole thing's a mess. I don't know. I'm confused with digital dollars and US dollar. Are they going to not have dollars? I don't know how that's impossible not to have some currency. But we'll talk about that once we know more. Otherwise, so we got nothing tonight. Tomorrow, Army Navy, and then Sunday's our football. Sunday night should be good. Miami San Diego. I think Miami San Diego is still the night game. I thought they made a change, but I don't recall. And then New England, Arizona. Whippy, Monday night. So are all the games going to be 16-3, and then the team's going to score 2 touchdowns with a minute left? That they couldn't for the first 58 minutes, they couldn't get past midfield, but miraculously, with a minute and a half left, they're going to score 2 touchdowns. Like, is this going to happen like on all the games now? I mean, that's just ridiculous. So I like about college, I don't feel the fixing in college as much. I think the fixing goes the other way. The team covers, not lays down. So like Ohio State with Urban Meyer would always cover he always knew the number, and he always, they'd be laying 48 and they'd be up 43, and he'd score with 2 minutes left in the game to cover the 48. He knew the line, and he made sure they covered it because all the guys were betting on him. And that's the difference. In pros, they're laying down, and in college, they're covering because they got to look good to get into the playoff. So this would be really interesting next year with what, 12 playoff teams? I think it's next year, right? So you have 12 playoff teams or 16 playoff teams. That'll be great. Now there's going to be such bullshit going on in games. It'll be incredible. Remember when Jim Kelly used to run the 2-minute offense the entire game, and it got them to 4 Super Bowls? And how many Super Bowls did they win? They got there because there was nothing. The only competition they had was what? Warren Moon and Elway. But what happened against the Giants? What did they do? Parcells just ran O.J. Anderson down their throats, shortened the clock, and then they couldn't do anything, and they played them and let them run. And so the 2-minute drill really didn't do any good. It's a good gimmick during the year, but when you get in against they got in against the wrong team with Dallas, with the Giants, Washington, and Dallas. They got in against the wrong teams to do that. Sort of like Minnesota. When they kept losing, they had such bad matchups. They couldn't. They were a pass defense, right? The fearsome foursome, or the purple people eaters, were to stop the pass, but not the run. So what did they? Oh yeah, the first Super Bowl, KC. But then they got in against the 3 best running teams ever. The Dolphins with Zanka. And then they had Pittsburgh with Franco, and then you had Oakland, who just ran it down their throats, and Stabler. So they were totally fucked, their matchups. They didn't have a prayer because they didn't – first of all, they didn't have a quarterback. Tarkenton sucked. They didn't have a running game. See, it all goes back to Miami won because they had Zanka, and Pittsburgh won because they had Franco, and Oakland won because they had Stabler. But you had quarterback. They didn't have a quarterback. Tarkenton sucked. They had some receivers. They never really. Chuck Foreman was okay, but not a real running back. And their defense was to stop the pass, not the run. Well, that's exactly why they lost, because you needed the Steelers. What did they do? The Steelers ran it down your throat, and you couldn't run on any of them. And they had such great defense, but you couldn't run on them. You couldn't run on Miami. That's why they won 2 Super Bowls in a row. KC should have beat them in that Christmas Day game. I was always upset about that. But that's the difference, is you can't you got to run and stop the run, and it's still today. And it's all for the red zone. I mean, back then, you had to get in and score, and that's the key to the game, is getting getting to the 10 and getting into the end zone, and not if you watch the game kind of just watching and not really, with an active interest as far as which team. And you watch some of these plays and the quarterback scrambling and rolling to his right, and they're all fucking miracles. These aren't plays. This isn't Joe Montana hitting Dwight Clark, which was an actual planned play where Clark goes back and forth and Montana throws it high on purpose. That is not what you're getting. Or if it is, they kind of look like that's what they're trying to do, but they're so bad at doing it. Like when these quarterbacks go to the right and then throw it up, they're all miracles. These aren't designed throw to the top Dwight Clarks. These are the guy running around and he happens to break open and they throw it, and it's a miracle that they get the touchdown. Or these throw it to the pylon, they're all like miracle touchdowns. These aren't planned. These are the worst design I've ever seen. You got to run the ball in. You got to have sweeps. Why aren't they running sweeps and play action pass, Dave Casper, as I always say? That's what these teams need. They missed a level, yeah. They did. Well, you're a Buffalo fan? I was actually on the Giants that game, but my brother-in-law was a Lawrence Taylor fan. We got him a Lawrence Taylor real jersey for his birthday one year. He loved it. He loved that more than his wife. He said they'd go to the game and there'd be a whole section of Lawrence Taylor jersey, people wearing the Lawrence Taylor 57 jerseys, and they'd all sit next to each other. It must have been hilarious. AFC fan. Yeah, but okay, so are you a Steeler fan and a Colt fan and a Brown fan that aren't really, well, Oakland, yeah, so you're an Oakland fan. Who cares about Buffalo choking a field goal? Well, the Raiders, yeah, that's the thing. The Raiders, what are they lacking? They're lacking a good owner, a good coach, a good GM, who Al Davis was. So why did the Raiders win? Then the problems they had until they got Marcus Allen, they really had struggled. They couldn't beat the Steelers because they couldn't run the ball and they couldn't stop the run. That was their problem. They couldn't. Marv Hubbard, okay, but they couldn't run the ball. That's why they couldn't beat the Steelers. And they really their run defense cost them against the Steelers those first two championships. The Immaculate Reception. I honestly had a bet on Pitt -1 in the game. I took Pitt -1 at home. I don't know if it was a teaser. I think it must have been. And I go, I'm fucked. Stabler just ran the only first down of the game. And then Bradshaw does his horse shit. And then he then obviously the catch. And I won a bet on that. Yeah, on that play. I had Pitt -1. Why did Pete run? Because Al Davis wanted to move to LA and Pete Rozelle didn't want him to. And Al Davis said, fuck you, I'm Al Davis. And checked with his attorneys and they said, you can move it. And Pete Rozelle didn't want him to go to LA because the Rams were there and wanted it to be in Oakland. And that's what happened. So Oakland, 5 years later, moved back because they agreed to a stadium or something. But Al Davis didn't listen to Pete Rozelle. Al Davis he used to be the commissioner of the AFL. So when he got there, he wasn't going to listen to Rozelle. So Rozelle is a power struggle. But when he won the title, he did give him the trophy. So that was good. But that was always Oakland's problem until they got Marcus Allen and they could run the ball. Then you saw him win the Super Bowls. It would have been great to see, what the fuck happened in 81. So they beat Philadelphia. And then here comes Joe Montana in 81, who beats Dallas. Where the fuck's Oakland for that Super Bowl? You get Oakland, Philly, and Oakland, Washington. But the one that would have been perfect would have been Oakland, San Francisco, Montana against Marcus Allen. Would have been the best Super Bowl ever. Where did Oakland go? They didn't show up for their own Super Bowl, but they won the one before and the one after. It was unbelievable. I always thought that that would have been a hell of a Super Bowl. Marcus Allen against Montana. I don't know who would have won that. Maybe Frisco because of Ronnie Lott, but that's a toughie. That's a toss up. Even now, the Raiders don't get the Lions certainly don't get calls from the refs, but yeah, I mean that's it's politics, I guess. But yeah, it's funny. Well, and the Raiders moved to Vegas, which I hate the move. But what are you gonna? They shouldn't have a team in Vegas. That's just stupid. But yeah, they played. Them and Dallas were the same team. They couldn't win the big ones because they were too much passing offense. And if you notice, the high passing offenses never win the Super Bowl. Dan Fouts, Marino. How the fuck could Marino not win a Super Bowl? And the one he got in, he got crushed. They didn't even have a chance against the Niners. They put so much pressure on him. But that's my point. That's why you pressure the quarterback. You don't lay back on him. Could you imagine Lamar Jackson back in the against the Raiders? Fucking Jack Tatum would have taken his neck off and taken his head out. I mean, that guy wouldn't have played 2 games once he played Oakland. That would have been it. And Tatum would have killed him. But that's what's missing from the game. But that's the difference between then and now. Lamar Jackson wouldn't have had a prayer. And quarterbacks like that. What did you have? Steve Grogan ran a little bit. And, the Bears quarterbacks couldn't throw. They ran a little bit. But the real good quarterbacks, even Tarkenton, he just scrambled, but he didn't run. But you couldn't run. You couldn't have a running quarterback back then. They'd get killed. But that's what I miss. You need a Jack Tatum to keep the peace. But that's what happens. So anyway, that should be about it. So if you're going to buy, make sure you go to the purchase picks. Go to www.teaserking.com, most importantly. Go to the purchase picks and make sure you'll go to PayPal. You'll put in your card that I don't see, just a PayPal transaction. And then it'll say, go back to the site for the password. Please go back to the site for the password. If you want to buy the whole rest of the year for $200, buy that Pro $200 and then email me you bought it, but you really wanted the full year, and then I will give you the password for the full year. If you just want the bowls for $1.25, then you get just the bowls for $1.25. It's your option. Otherwise, I think that's about it. We'll keep our eye out for these guys sitting out or the injuries. I guess we got Army Navy next. We'll look into your college bowl packet. Yeah, whatever you want to do. See, what you got here is like this is my expected outcomes. Not my picks per se, although the picks, the Minnesota over is a pick. It's a free pick, but it's one I'm betting on, as is Cincinnati is one I'm betting on. You don't know what I'm betting, how much. That's really, who's my teaser pick. That's what you don't know. That's why you purchase. But if you just are interested in going, oh, yeah, okay, I was looking at the Detroit game, and he likes Minnesota and the over. Oh, okay. I like Detroit, but I'll stay away, or I'll take Minnesota. You can certainly do that. That's why I do this. But if you want to know who I'm betting on, which is more meaningful, then you actually want to see my picks, and then you can go from there. So whatever you want to do, Prophet, hit me up with an email. And if you would prefer, hey, for $200, I get everything, the pros. I don't know your status, though, as far as what you can afford. If you are just looking for a few bowl games, or, if you want to get all the rest of the weeks and the NFL playoffs and the college bowls. So that's up to you. All right, I think I'm done. Anything else, let me know. www.teaserking.com. Good luck this weekend. Mostly a pro weekend. We got a little Army-Navy game, which is always fun. And that'll be about it. Okay, I think it's off to the pool, I think. Or soon. Well, I got to watch the end of my TV and then off to the pool. All right, everybody. Have a great day, great weekend. I don't know if I'll do a show tomorrow. It's just Army Navy. I think what I'll do is Sunday morning we'll do our pros. I think that'll be a good thing to do. All right, everybody. Have a good weekend. Good luck, and I will talk to you soon. You take care, Prophet.